In this part of the tutorial, I'm going to show you how to use a Vega-Lite specification that you have created as part of a project in another programming language or platform. And for that, I'm going through the examples of embedding your Vega-Lite specification into JavaScript, into Python, Julia, R, and Power BI. As a running example to do that, I'm using this visualization here from the example gallery from the Vega-Lite documentation. It's a simple overview and detail visualization which shows the numbers of flights at different hours of the day. And we have an overview up top where we can specify certain range of interest. Say we are interested in all the flights between 6 a.m. and 9 a.m. So we can brush this time interval and then we get a more detailed view of this particular time interval here shown at the bottom. The Vega-Lite specification itself shouldn't give you any troubles after having gone through the tutorial so far. So we're importing the data. There is a bit of a formatting that needs to be done on the date field to turn it into a numerical attribute that can be used by Vega-Lite. Then there is a transformation that extracts the time of the day from each of these date fields. And then we specify the visualization as a two-parter, as a vertical concatenation of first the overview, which is this column chart here, where we also have defined the brush as an interval selection along the x-axis. And then comes the detail view down here, which uses the brushed interval to define the horizontal extent of the chart. Now, having specified this visualization, how could we, let's say, embed it in JavaScript? You would want to do this, for example, to publish your visualization to the web. So you have maybe some data and a visualization that shows it, and now you want to make that accessible to everyone online. What we do for that is, and I have prepared a little template here, is we create an HTML page that is really simple. So we have the opening and closing HTML tags at the beginning and at the end. And then there is the definition of the head of the HTML document, which is in this case used to load three libraries: the Vega library, the Vega-Lite library, and another library that's called Vega Embed. And then we have the body of the HTML page. And that body for now is empty. So it has this empty div where there is nothing, no text, no content really in between. It's just a placeholder that specifies a particular location in our document. And then we have a small JavaScript here that awaits our Vega-Lite specification. We will copy in our Vega-Lite specification in just a moment. What it then does is, and this is where all the magic happens, this little command called Vega Embed that then takes the specification we have just given and renders a chart into the place of the document that is specified here, and that would then be the name or the ID of this div. So the chart will then be attached or entered into this empty div here. So let's go ahead and go and copy our Vega-Lite specification. I'm leaving out the opening and closing curling brackets, as you can see here, because I have already I have them already here as part of the template. And I just paste the specification here. That is almost everything. There is one tiny thing we need to change, and that is the URL of the data, because the URL is relative to the Vega-Lite specific documentation. So we need to turn that into an absolute URL by giving it the full path to the data, and that is that. Now let's save this as, I don't know, test.html, save. And now it's here on our hard drive, and we can just open it with the browser, and here is our visualization. Yeah, and it has all the functionality that you've seen before. It also has, and that's thanks to this Vega embed library, this little mark up here that you can click, and it gives you a menu that allows you to even take the visualization and save it as an SVG or PNG if you want to use it further as part of a document. You can now just go ahead and take this HTML document that we have created, place it on a web server, and then anyone in the world will be able to access it. So the next part, I'm going to show you how to use Vega-Lite specification in Python. And for that, you will need the Altair library. And to install the Altair library, you will need to run your package manager. In my case, that's pip. In your case, that may also be pip or conda, depending on your Python installation. And then you say pip install Altair, and it will then fetch and install the latest version of Altair, as well as all the dependencies it needs. In my case, that was quick because I have it already installed. Now that's installed, you can use it from inside Python. And I'm going to do that through a Jupyter notebook, which is maybe also the kind of interface that you are using to interface with your Python installation. So what we are going to do is to import Altair, and then we want Altair to generate a chart from a JSON specification. Now the JSON specification needs to be placed inside 3 double quotes. So 1, 2, and 3. And here we go. So be careful that it's really 3. Sometimes it adds another quote here automatically. Okay, so let's take our specification, this time the full specification, copy it here, and then again slight change here from the relative file path https to the absolute one, vega.github.io/vega-lite. So now that we have everything in here, we can run this, and you will then see that the Jupyter notebook creates the visualizations down here, and you have the interaction as mentioned previously right inside the Jupyter notebook. Yeah. Now let's embed Vega-Lite into Julia. For that, you will need the package called Vega-Lite, and so you open your Julia installation, you go into the package mode by typing the closing squared brackets, and you just add Vega-Lite. Now, in my case, that doesn't take long because I have it already installed, but it will probably take a while if you haven't. Now, going back to the command line interface of Julia, we hit the backspace button to get out of the package mode. And we can now use the Vega-Lite package we just installed by just typing using Vega-Lite. That tells Julia that in the following some code is coming using this package, and then we add our specification, and that is done using this keyword VL, and then again 3 opening double quotes. Then we add the specification from here. Let's copy that and paste that in here, and 3 closing double quotes. Now, you already guessed it, we need to change the path from the relative path into an absolute one. So let's do this real quick. vega.github.io/vega-lite/, and then we are ready to go. So let's execute this. And you see it opens the browser with our visualization. If you are using Julia from as part of the Jupyter notebook, then it will, as you just saw it with the Python notebook, just open it as an output underneath. Now, in the next example, we want to embed our Vega-Lite specification in R. And to do that, we use a package called Vega-Widget. So I'm using RStudio here, and you can install that package via Tools, Install Packages, and then you just search for Vega-Widget, and there it is. So install all dependencies. Let's install it, and there it is. Let's use that newly installed package by saying library Vega-Widget, and now we can just specify Vega-Widget, and we use the call as Vega spec, so as Vega specification. Now what we need is we need single quotes, and inside these single quotes we just copy our specification as before, and you already know that we need to then change a tiny thing here, which is the relative path to the data file. So we type here vega.github.io/vega-lite, so that this works. Good. And then we can just execute that. And you will see now here in the viewer, we get our chart together with even the little widget that we already know here, this menu from the Vega embed. Yeah. If you are using this directly from the R console, so not in the studio, but in the actual graphical interface from R, it will open up the browser to show you the charts here, like Julia did before. As the last part in this tutorial series, we're going to look at how to embed Vega-Lite specification in a Power BI report. And for that, we need first to insert a custom visual, which we do here under Insert More Visuals and then from App Source. And here we need the custom visual DNAP. So clicking on DNAP, DNAP stands for Declarative Visualization for Power BI or in Power BI, and we add this to our project. That takes a moment, and once done, import successful, we see this little icon appear here underneath all the other visualizations. So you can click on it and it will add this custom visual to our report. There's not much to see here yet. We first need to add data to Power BI before we can show it. So we head over here to the data view, clicking on this little table, and click here on Get Data. Now our file, our data is given in JSON format. So we click on JSON and say Connect. And now Power BI asks us for a file name. Now that file name we can copy from here. Taking this, copying it over, and of course adding the full URL again. vega.github.io/vega-lite/. Let's open this. Takes a moment to fetch and parse the data. And then we are presented with this preview here. Since the data is already well formatted, we just click on Close and Apply. There's nothing for us to do here. And that will then load the data into Power BI as is. That being done, we can head back to the report view, clicking here. And now you see that our data set appears here. We can click on the little triangle and take the date field and move it over here to the values. After all, we want to count the number of flights for each hour of the day, and this information is here in the date field. Now what we need though is not this date hierarchy that Power BI automatically created from the date field, but we need the raw date field to be passed into the Vega-Lite specification. So we click here on date. Good. Now that we have specified our data that we want to show, we can click here on the three dots for more options and say Edit. DNAP now offers us this wizard with different visualization options. Since we bring our own visualization to the table, we just click on the empty and say Create. That will create an empty visualization, which you see here. What we do here is that we just take this part and copy it here. Now you see that it still says URL here. We need to change that back. The data set that we have just dragged over here is exposed to the Vega-Lite specification under the name dataset. Now that we have that settled, we can apply our changes, and we see here that this generates the expected visualization. If we go back to the report, we can resize this a little, and then we have our interaction in the report as we would have it also on the web page or in R or wherever else we generated this specification so far. So that was just a tiny, I guess, example or a tiny demonstration of how to use Vega-Lite in different languages, platforms. There are many others that are enabled for Vega-Lite visualizations. In the following tutorials, you will see how to make use of the sometimes special syntax that some of the libraries like Altair or also the Julia library for rendering Vega-Lite bring with them. So to go beyond the mere specification of Vega-Lite.